Hi friends, welcome to episode 2 of the Wisdom by Teacher Lu Xia podcast. Now I know that this is not literally episode 2 in our podcast series where we share Teacher Lu Xia's wisdom and teachings, but because in the past the episodes were mixed between English and Mandarin, so starting from the last 2 episodes we have decided to kick off more structured podcast format where Mandarin episodes will have its own episode sequencing, right? Where it's Mandarin episode 1, Mandarin episode 2, and the English episodes will be also based on its own sequencing. So in today's episode, right, we share further learnings from Teacher Lu Xia pertaining mainly to career wisdom. So today we'll share 3 main broad topics. First is on social etiquettes that is important for us to thrive in society and in the workplace. Secondly, we'll share on some work ethics when it comes to our work in an organization or even if you're running our own business. And lastly, some leadership wisdom when it comes to hiring and discerning the different type of talents. So let's go first to the point on social etiquettes. Teacher Lu Xia shares that every time when you go out and dine with your boss, no matter what the case is, you should always strive to foot the bill. Why? Because this is a form of social etiquette, right? Of course, for most people who are just starting out in the workplace or you're not at a certain level of management position, you might feel that this is a waste of my money. However, when we do so, it's a signal of our awareness of social etiquettes. And when we're able to do it, we will definitely leave a positive impression in our superiors' eyes. And Teacher Lu Xia often shares one quote in Mandarin that 没有白花的钱，没有白送的礼. In the sense that especially when it comes to social etiquettes, money spent, gifts given will always be worth it at the end of the day. Second thing, Teacher Lu Xia also shared that, again, irregardless of the context, for a meal with your superior, understand that you're there to also do some work. And the basic work that you do when it comes to professional social dining etiquettes is to prepare, right? Prepare cutleries for your boss, prepare the paper napkins, serve them drinks, refill their cups, so on and so forth. This is very important because even if let's say it's a team cohesion, the boss says that, okay, everyone let's go out for a meal. And it seems like as though it's the boss who's treating and being the host. But you should still act on this part because it's a social etiquette for us to demonstrate and perform. Again, if you're able to do that, your boss will definitely see you in a different light. Next point, also relating to this wisdom of social etiquettes, dining etiquettes. This context was shared by Teacher Lu Xia. There was one time when a foreign guest was coming to her country, China. She told this guest that, okay, when you come over here, let me treat you and your family or your business partners who are coming to a dinner. And so these guests, they acknowledged and agreed. And they also told Teacher Lu that, but you don't have to order so much because we are small eaters and we don't want to end up having to waste a lot of food. So Teacher Lu Xia shared that, let's split into 2 roles. Okay, first is host and guest. So in this case, Teacher Lu is the host and these friends of hers are what we call guests. So always understand that as the guests, right, they will definitely share some things on their part of social etiquettes to convey their thoughtfulness and courtesy to you. Definitely they cannot agree and say that, yes, order more food, right? Because that would mean that I want you to spend more money for me. That is not the most graceful thing to do. But on our end, as a host, even though on the surface they say that, and even if they mean that, but irregardless, when they come, we still have to treat them to a sumptuous meal. Make sure that it's abundant enough to keep everyone full and filled, because that is your expression of your heart. Understand that no matter what the case is, people will always be happy to receive these kind gestures and this gifting of yours. So very interestingly, this is quite a funny story. So now we are in November 2025, and last month, October 2025, Teacher Lu Xia celebrated her birthday. So this year, because we were very busy with shifting our sanctuary to a new location, so every year it's a tradition to have some form of celebration for Teacher Lu Xia's birthday, right? So this year, because we were so busy with the moving and stuff like that, Teacher Lu Xia shared that let's just keep this birthday gathering simple, because every time when it's Teacher Lu's birthday, a lot of her disciples, students, clients from different parts of the world will want to fly over to wherever she is to celebrate her birthday with her or to gift her, things like that. So she was in Singapore this year for her birthday, and she told students, disciples, clients of hers that don't come over to Singapore because we are very busy and no need for the trouble. But at the end of the day, when it came to her birthday period, there were about 5 to 6 of them who came from China to visit her in Singapore for her birthday. And we all had a very happy and joyous gathering and reunion. And that's where Teacher Lu Xia shared that, yes, of course, it's just like parents, right? Parents, they will always be thoughtful for you. If you're busy with your work, don't have to come and visit me. Don't have to come and trouble and come to the house and do this and that. Yeah, so on verbally, they will convey this because they don't want to trouble us. That is their intention on their part. They want to express this love of theirs. But if you were to still, let's say, show up at your parents' place, visit them every week whatsoever, despite them rejecting you, definitely you'll still be happy. Yeah, so that's what Teacher Lu shared as well, that, although yes, she forcefully rejected, some of them coming over to Singapore to visit her, but at the end of the day, those who squeeze their way through and still want to come and they end up coming, she's still very happy. So same for social etiquettes. When people convey what they convey is from their intention and thoughtfulness. But at the end of the day, when we still give them the goodness, they will still be very glad and happy to receive it. Thirdly, related to this point on this whole social etiquette aspect of things, so this is a context where today is lunchtime and you see that your boss is busy in a meeting still. So you think to yourself that, okay, maybe I should get my boss lunch. Okay, firstly, if you have that thought in your mind, then that's a +1 point for you, because most people, they don't even care. Okay, so the fact that you have that thoughtfulness and you are considering that, it shows that you are one level ahead of others in terms of this social awareness and social etiquette. So you want to come over to ask him or her, hey boss, do you want to have lunch? So Teacher Lu Xia said that in such a context, actually, you don't have to ask. If your intention is to want to get lunch for your boss, just go get it. So never feel embarrassed, oh, what if I order something and they don't eat? It's so embarrassing. No, don't have to. You convey what you want to convey, and whether or not they wish to accept it, reciprocate, is up to them. But at least on your end, you have done your part to express these intentions and thoughtfulness of yours. So that is the last point for this podcast series when it comes to this wisdom on social etiquette and social awareness that I'd like to share. Moving on to our next wisdom. So this pertains to work ethics. And here's a scenario, right, to start off sharing with all of you about this point. Let's say today your boss has a certain plan that he or she assigns you and asks you to execute on it. And on your end, when you look at the plan, right, based on your on-the-ground experience whatsoever, you feel that this is not the best plan. You don't understand why they want to spend time and resources to do this. So Teacher Lu Xia shared that you should feedback to your boss some thoughts and considerations of yours for them to know, right, in case they really do miss these different considerations. So but after feedbacking to your superior still insists that you, along with your team or whatsoever, execute this particular plan that they give you. And even if in your mind there are still doubts about its feasibility, you should still execute this plan that your superiors have handed down to you. Why? Teacher Lu Xia shared that it comes down to roles and positioning. Your positioning is that of an employee. You have an obligation to listen and execute the plans of your superior. So just based on that alone, there is no reason why you should reject it, no matter how wrong or how unfeasible you feel this plan is. Many employees, they make the mistake of not listening to their superiors or throwing a tantrum, not doing the work well because they feel that this plan does not work. So all these behaviors in such a scenario that I just described is a bad behavior on the part of staff, because it shows that you have forgotten your positioning, and it could even reflect that this person has become full of themselves. Another thing is also, bosses always do the things they do based on the biggest picture that they see. But as an employee, we may not see the full picture. And so the boss may want us to execute on plans based on this full picture, consideration, and even foresight that they have. These considerations, they need not tell us. Bosses have no obligation to tell us all their plans. Some of it might even be trade secrets, so why should they tell us? So always understand that if it's a final verdict by the superior based on positioning as well as understanding the boss's full picture consideration, we should execute according to what our boss wants us to execute on. And another point linking to this particular scenario is some employees, they like to give suggestions, right? They like to give suggestions and ideas and action plans for the company and for their superiors. And on the surface, they express it in a way whereby they are coming out with these ideas and plans for the betterment of the organization. However, when their superiors end up rejecting the ideas, they start to get unhappy. So Teacher Lu Xia shares that for such employees, although on the surface, they seem to be acting on the company's best interests, but this underlying attitude of theirs, it reflects their sense of arrogance and ego. The true intention is that they just want to show off their abilities and their ideas, and they want people to execute according to their plan without truly having a thorough consideration of others' perspectives or the company's real situation. So Teacher Lu Xia shares that such employees, they lack self-awareness. Again, awareness of their own positioning, that even if your superiors say no to all of your plans, you have an obligation to accept whatever is their final verdict. So that's one. And secondly, unawareness of their limitations. They're just employee, they don't see the full picture of the entire organization. So Teacher Lu Xia sums up by saying that it's always good to have creativity and want to take action on plans for the company. But we must always understand that our creativity must always be grounded on the right foundation. the right foundation of understanding our positioning, and grounded on the foundation of what the organization really needs. Final point. This is a leadership wisdom that Teacher Lu Xia shared when it comes to telling good potential employees and not so good potential employees apart, okay, especially if you are in the hiring process. No matter how capable or intelligent an employee is, but if they're very cunning, they're very scheming, they like to play petty tricks and schemes just to, get the upper hand, right? They like to beat around the bush and slither their way through. These people with not good character, better not to use such people. And Teacher Lu shares that, I guess this is more of a question to the audience, for those of you who are hearing this or watching this. Teacher Lu says there's two types of employees. The first type of employee are the average and very typical ones. They only do things when their bosses tell them to do things. If nothing is handed over to them, then there's nothing that they do. Second employee are people who don't need the boss to say anything, and they'll automatically be able to take action and think a few steps ahead to know what they should do on the company's best interests. So Teacher Lu shared this via an example. On the day itself, right after the meal context that we're mentioning, we're in a shopping mall and we saw basically in a shopping mall open area, there was an yoga-like activity that was going on. So at the point in time, there were 3 employees that were following Teacher Lu. When Teacher Lu passed by, she was just walked to another corner to observe what the activity was about. 2 employees followed her along, to try to find out what this activity is about, thinking, oh, is it yoga or whatever it is. Whereas 1 employee went straight ahead to the person who looked like the organizer to ask about what this activity was about and how can one organize such an activity in the shopping mall, and got the contact details of this particular organizer person in charge. So using this example, Teacher Lu Xia shared about what I mentioned earlier, that first type of employee, which are the first 2 that followed Teacher Lu to see the other corner. Actually, Teacher Lu was kind of giving them a test to see who would be agile enough to think a few steps ahead and take the best action. Most employees are like what Teacher Lu did and mentioned, that they have to wait for their boss to say, oh, go find out what this activity is about. Find out who's the contact person, then they'll do it. But the other kind of employee is like, without the boss having to say anything, they understand what the boss wants to do and think 10 steps ahead to know who he or she should look for and what kind of information he or she needs to get in order to deliver the outcome that the boss wants. So I guess quite an in-depth sharing for this particular podcast, where we covered 3 areas to summarize. First, on social etiquettes, the different nuances involved. Hope that it will be helpful for all of you to take and apply in whatever context that you're facing in the workplace. Secondly, when it comes to work ethic, work spirit, hope that sharing helps as well. And lastly, on understanding the different type of employees. If you're a manager, hope this insight helps you when it comes to selecting talents that you should groom and / or hire. And if you're an employee, use this as a point to self-reflect to see how you can improve yourself in this work process. So hope you enjoyed this podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode of the Wisdom by Teacher Lu Xia podcast.